With a long history in cinemas, who doesn't love to imagine what would happen if people suddenly changed their diets and started consuming human blood? Each movie to their own with variations of the original creature. Movie Spotlight shares how they would interact with humans in modern day with the top vampire action movies. What powers do these vampires have? Do stay till number 1 to guess which movie is the top vampire action movie, starting with number 10. What does Abraham Lincoln have to do with vampires? In Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Abe, played by Benjamin Walker, has a secret. He has a regular day job and becomes a president by day, and by night he is on a mission to eliminate all vampires. He witnesses his mother being murdered by a vampire, Jack Bartz, so tries to find Bartz, but somehow he just doesn't die. Abe learns from vampire hunter Henry Sturgis, played by Dominic Cooper, who teaches Abe to use silver to kill vampires for good. As Abe becomes a president, he goes up against the Confederate leader of vampires, Adam, played by Rufus Sewell, a powerful and ancient vampire. Will Abe be able to take out Adam whilst abolishing slavery by day? After all, the slave trade keeps the vampires under control and well fed. Our number 9 lists 30 Days of Night, Dark Days, which follows the vampire assault in the isolated town of Barrow in Alaska, as the month-long 30-day sunset is decimated by a clan of vampires who are sensitive to ultraviolet lights as they incinerate once exposed. Stella, played by Keel Sanchez, moves to Los Angeles and uses her lectures to educate those about the siege of the sleepy Alaskan town and that vampires actually do exist by exposing them to ultraviolet light in her audience.
Hit the lights.
But FBI agent Norris writes it all off as a hoax, as he's a wannabe vampire. Stella, as the only survivor in Alaska, finds other vampire hunters and bands together to exact revenge on the vampire queen Lilith. Will this be enough to avenge the death of her husband Eben?
Lilith orchestrates everything. She keeps them organized, she keeps them secret.
We have good news for number 8, Rayne, the immortal vampire born from a human and vampire union, Blood Rayne III Reich, starring Natissa Malthy, has joined the resistance, and she uses her vampiric powers to fight the bad guys, i.e. the Nazis. In their mission at attacking a train expecting to find weapons, Rayne is shot by a soldier and her blood splashes on the face of a Nazi leader, Eckhart, and turns into a powerful vampire. Oops! Hitler has been using scientist Dr. Mengele looking for the magical artifacts to find a way to become immortal.
I can make Hitler immortal.
So, Rayne's mission now is to stop Eckhart injecting Adolf Hitler with Rayne's blood, or there would be no stopping Hitler. As we see Rayne with vampire powers, as she can jump 20 feet into the air and run unnaturally fast in this third movie of the franchise. Can you imagine Hitler as an immortal? We find at number 7, the Stakelander, where the land has been ravaged by vampires in this new dark ages. As a follow-up film, Martin, played by Connor Paolo, wife and daughter were killed by an attack of vampires, so he's seeking out his old mentor vampire hunter, Mister, played by Nick D'Amici. On his way, he runs into a group of cannibals and is tricked by a feral girl, and is captured.
Don't worry, sweetheart, I'm not gonna hurt you.
When Mister recognizes Martin and they escape the cannibals in Martin's mission to destroy the vampire leader after his home of New Eden is destroyed by the Brotherhood and its new vamp leader. Mister and Martin fight alongside old friends, and eventually Mister sacrifices himself, just too tired of the fight, as Martin escapes after killing the main vampire leader. Number 6 sees this pretty unusual vampire movie where we see vampirism as a side effect from an experimental stem cell treatment and skin grafting after Rose, played by Laura Vandervoot, suffers from a horrific traffic accident and damages her beautiful face beyond recognition as she turns into what seems to be Dr. Jekyll overnight. Fully recovering from the infusion, Rose, with nothing short of a miracle, it seems that everything in life does come at some price. In her perfect life, no exception, as she is unprepared for the terrifying results that follow. An insatiable appetite for human blood. What do you think? What would you do? Does Rose fight back against her infection to stop it spreading even further? 5 sees an interesting take on a vampire movie set on a boat, Blood Vessel, as the name suggests, where a lifeboat gang of survivors sat during World War II, which is a life raft adrift at sea somewhere in the Atlantic. No food, no water or shelter, but that's less of a concern. There is hope with an abandoned German minesweeper drifting towards the raft, but as they pull themselves aboard the ship, it's clear that there is something seriously off. They realize the ancient evil that lies aboard this abandoned Nazi ship. What are the caskets on board? They find it's crawling vampires, and this lone girl Maya, played by Ruby Hall, as vampiric infection spreads, enabling vampires to control any human survivors. Will the survivors be able to stay on board as we see this combo of a ghost ship, dead Nazis and vampires? At 4, Blood the Last Vampire sees a 400-year-old vampire, Saya, as a half-human, half-vampire, half-blood on a mission to exterminate vampires, working with the Council, the secret society who have been hunting vampires for centuries, and of course it runs deeper, as like everyone else, Saya wants revenge as her father was murdered by vampires. She is sent on a mission to a military base in Tokyo, where she may have her chance to destroy Onigen, who killed her father and is the vampire leader. She becomes friends with Alice, the daughter of a military base's commander, as she finds a military base she was sent to is crawling with demons and vampires, as the last remaining of her kind while she survived the onslaught. We have Daybreakers in the number 3 spot, where it is 2019 and a plague has transformed almost every human into vampires. In this vampire fantasy world, with only 5% of the human race remaining, the dominant vampire population is faced with a dwindling blood supply and have to ration what is left. As the vampires starved off blood supply evolve into bat-like creatures called subsiders that attack anyone, including other vampires, in order to survive. The vampires plot for their survival as researcher Dr. Edward Dalton, played by Ethan Hawke, works to find an artificial blood supply to feed the vampire population and save mankind. Vampires in this movie cannot die. They are already dead, have golden eyes and cannot be exposed to UV light, and of course must feed on human blood. As they do not have a heartbeat, they cannot feel pain, although these vampires do not possess superhuman strength or speed like other vampire movies. Interestingly, in this movie we see a reversal where vampires can actually be turned back into human form. In our penultimate pick, it's the Mortal Instruments City of Bones. We have Clary Frey, played by Lily Collins, who is on the search for her mother, who disappeared after her mother was attacked by a demon vampire. Clary then goes on a mission to understand the truth about her past and bloodlines, as she discovers she is a descendant of a line of warrior shadow
Your mother was a shadow hunter, like him, like you.
who are half angel and half human, and inherit powers like drawing temporary magical runes on the skin, and are able to see what's invisible to mortals, and possess immense power as they are strong enough to protect our world to save humanity, which is on the brink of extinction as the evil shadow world of demons, vampires, werewolves and deadly creatures have taken over. Clary joins forces with Jace, played by Jamie Campbell Bower, in the shadow world, but will this be enough in time? Before we reveal the movie spotlight's pick for the top vampire action movies, be sure to smash that subscribe button now. In the lesser known indie film that comes out as number 1 as Daylight's End, in this awesome post-apocalyptic land of vampire zombie-like creatures, there are very few pockets of survivors remaining following an outbreak that has turned most humans into bloodthirsty vampire-like monsters, which turn on you fast. You see, these vampire zombies only come out at night and they run really fast, just like zombies in 28 Days Later. As the infection is spreading and vampirism, a road drifter, Johnny Strong, who is Thomas Rourke, is vengeful, and he's seeking revenge as he's lost his pregnant wife to the creatures. After saving Sam, played by Chelsea Edmondson, they stumble across a band of survivors in an abandoned police station. Leader of those holed up at the precinct is Frank Hill, played by Lance Henriksen, and Rourke reluctantly agrees to try to help them defend themselves and escape to a sanctuary they so desperately need. If you enjoyed this movie, why not check out some of the best vampire and werewolf movies by clicking on the screen right now.